Every year in the United States, millions of Americans face disaster, either from natural occurrences or by deliberate attacks on their safety. When an event is of such magnitude, the President may declare it a major disaster and authorize federal disaster assistance so those affected can rebuild their homes and communities. FEMA, through the Individual Assistance Program, has the authority to collect and use the personal information of disaster applicants. However, all FEMA representatives, which include FEMA employees and contractors, have the responsibility to protect this personal information. This video will explain the Privacy Act and what it means to you as a FEMA employee or FEMA contractor. It will discuss the proper procedures for collecting, protecting, and disclosing the personal information of disaster applicants and the consequences if a breach occurs. The Federal Emergency Management Agency's mission is to support our citizens and first responders to ensure that as a nation we work together to build, sustain, and improve our capability to prepare for, protect against, respond to, recover from, and mitigate all hazards.
FEMA, what we do, we respond to emergencies and disasters. We provide assistance to individuals who are affected by those emergencies and disasters.
The Individual Assistance Office assists individuals and families affected by disasters, so they have access to the full range of FEMA programs and receive the best possible level of service. The office's work also includes developing partnerships with the states, voluntary organizations, the private sector, and other federal agencies that deliver similar kinds of assistance. Following a disaster, there are many new concerns that preoccupy the minds of the disaster survivor. Worrying about his or her personal information shouldn't be one of them.
They're in an extremely vulnerable position. And what the FEMA staff person can assure them is that we will be acting in accordance with the Privacy Act. We will protect their information. We will not let further harm come to them through this process. And that, yes, they should trust us enough to give us their information so that we can help them.
The Privacy Act is a federal law. It regulates the collection, maintenance, use, and dissemination of personally identifiable information by federal executive branch agencies. Created in 1974, the Privacy Act was born out of the need to protect individuals from illegal surveillance and investigation by federal agencies.
The Privacy Act was passed in the immediate aftermath of Watergate, in which there was a feeling across the country of a lot of mistrust of the government, and there was a paranoia that the government was keeping track and keeping tabs on people. And this piece of legislation was designed to help the average citizen.
Computers, the internet, and the expanding use of the Social Security number as a personal identifier makes it easy for the government and third parties not only to collect, organize, and access an individual's personal data, but to potentially misuse it as well. The Privacy Act seeks to balance the protection of individual rights of privacy against the need for information. While this information must be protected, it can be disclosed, but only for specific purposes outlined in the Privacy Act, the Federal Register, and Department of Homeland Security. The four main elements of the Privacy Act that apply to FEMA's Disaster Recovery Assistance System of Records are personally identifiable information, system of records, no disclosure without written consent, and routine use.
Good afternoon, this is Disaster Services. My name's Ed. My number's 8438. How can I help you?
Personally identifiable information, or PII, is any data about an individual that can be used to uniquely identify that person. Examples of PII are the applicant's full name, driver's license number, street address, social security number, telephone number, email address, vehicle registration number, fingerprints or other biometric data, credit card numbers, birth date, or birthplace. When PII is compiled in a disaster assistance application, it becomes part of the Disaster Recovery Assistance Files, which is FEMA's system of records. A system of records is a group of records under the control of an agency, such as FEMA, from which information can be retrieved via PII, such as the name of the individual to whom the record pertains, or by a unique 9-digit registration number assigned to that record. FEMA accesses the Disaster Recovery Assistance files through two systems, NEMIS, or the National Emergency Management Information System, and DARAC, the Direct Assistance and Replacement Assistance Consideration. There are permitted exceptions to the Privacy Act for sharing information. A cornerstone of the Act is the rule, no disclosure without written consent. That is, FEMA cannot disclose any information to a third person or party without the written consent of the individual to whom the record pertains. Another exception is routine use. Routine use permits limited disclosure of protected information to an outside third party, but only if all outlined requirements are met for FEMA. Because there is a lot of information to know about the Privacy Act, FEMA continually works to train staff and contractors.
I would advise that you take a very common sense approach and a very practical approach. Do not collect information if you do not have the authority to collect it. Verify that you are authorized to share the information with the person that is requesting it. Even if it's a senior official, the Privacy Act requires that we limit our collection and our sharing of personal information. Only maintain accurate, timely, and complete information. And when in doubt, contact your individual assistance rep. They are there to help you.
Understanding the Privacy Act can be daunting. Remember these key points. The Privacy Act of 1974 establishes the requirements for federal agencies in their collection, maintenance, use, and dissemination of personally identifiable information. The Office of Management and Budget is charged with defining these responsibilities in accordance to the Privacy Act requirements. FEMA's Disaster Recovery Program maintains personal information on FEMA's applicants that is kept in a system of records with very strict access and use requirements. Violations of the Privacy Act can erode public confidence and FEMA's ability to meet its mission.